So Pisces, your September 2025 forecast is intriguing. The two eclipses are polar opposite. They represent two different things. So those energies, in a way, are going to be battling a little bit, but you have a great asset arriving in your sign on the 1st in the guise of Saturn, which can help you to moderate and modulate exactly where you need to give and where you need to get. Now, Saturn was with you from the early part of March 23 to the third week of May 25, and as he inched forwards and applied to your ascendant, sun or moon or other planetary players, you will have felt the cool chill. But what Saturn asks us to do in the first house, our own sign, is simplify our lives, but also be conscious of what we need as an individual. And because you can be so incredibly self-sacrificing, it's possible that you've had to withdraw from certain situations where perhaps you enjoyed the job, perhaps you really liked the people, but maybe your physical vitality was really being impacted. Perhaps you lost a bit of enthusiasm. Perhaps you did all the good things but didn't really feel heard or seen or respected by the other side. So Saturn moving back into your sign, particularly if you've got degrees from 22 Pisces to the end of the sign, you are going to feel it keenly. And it is important with Saturn to be economic with our energy. So where you use the resources you've got, focusing on what's really crucial for you. So that is prioritizing. But the irony of this month with the two eclipses is that Mercury, the communicator, moves into your opposite sign on the 2nd. Now, if we think back to the end of June, Mercury's been going through the sign of Leo, where it can be a little bit attached to its ideas, rather prideful, but also it's been going through the pre and post-retrograde shadows and the retrograde itself. So you may have experienced some brittle energies, tension, and perhaps even some nervous exhaustion. Now Venus has pitched up in Leo and has been softening that energy and perhaps in some ways pushing you to continue to do good things for other people. And for sure, if we do thoughtful, practical gestures with Venus in the 6th, it is a good thing, why not? But I think Mercury moving into your opposite sign can help you to be a bit more detached from some of that brittleness that may have prevailed. Now Mercury is going to build up into an exact conjunction with the Sun by the 13th, the Cazimi, the 4th of the year. It's a superior conjunction because Mercury is in direct motion, and that amplifies, the Sun amplifies the qualities of Mercury, and Mercury of course is at home in the sign of Virgo. So it can be very precise, it can be very good at defining things and sifting and refining, but around relationships you could find yourself having a really interesting discussion with Mercury's help. It's just that Uranus, the planet of surprises, but also provocation and freedom, higher truths, goes retrograde in your home zone on the 6th through to the first week of November. Where you live or how you live there could feel a bit unsettled, but you can turn it to your advantage by decluttering and just streamlining your home experience somewhat. But the lunar eclipse in your sign on the 7th coalesces with the North Node, the point of destiny, but they're both blessed beautifully by Jupiter, your traditional ruler, in the most playful, exuberant, even joyful part of your scope, in Cancer, where it is also exalted. And that links into the lunar eclipse in a very valuable way for the backdrop period of the next 6 months. So what Saturn and the eclipse are saying to you is, Saturn's saying, set your boundaries and be clear about what you need, but also the energy of the node on the moon and Jupiter is also saying, still retain your humanity, because that's something that's very, very important to Pisces people. But you can at times retreat when you feel that other people don't respect you into a much cooler, withdrawn state, and at other times you can be hugely generous. sometimes even flamboyant. So it's really what Saturn is doing is help you, as I mentioned before, to modulate exactly the give and get. But I think an important relationship could come into your situation over the next 6 months, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic one, but it certainly could be one. Now, Mercury is very much about how we think, can be about messages, but then it dives deep on the 18th, joining up with Mars, passionate Mars, which is in a part of your scope through to the 22nd of this month, which is very much about desire. And if you're wanting to really improve your financial fortunes or have a very intense romantic relationship, Mars will certainly help. So Mercury joining up with Mars is intriguing because it is still in an opposition with your modern ruler Neptune, also strict Saturn, but it is also angling with Uranus and Pluto. Now Pluto continues its journey in the psychological 12th house. Pluto may be the planet of the collective, but the sign of Aquarius is about community. But you may find that the community that you've existed within could be changing. And the link between Pluto, Uranus and Mercury suggests you could have some very profound thoughts, even some moments that could be really quite life-changing. You can understand or unlock the code to how you can take your life forwards in a very profound way. But Venus then moves to join up with the Sun, and I should say Venus forges a delicious semi-sextile with the Sun through to the 19th. So even if you are wanting to collaborate with someone, that part of your nature which can be very thoughtful can get a reward with Venus in that semi-sextile, but then it moves into your opposite sign. And a bit like Mercury moving into Virgo on the 2nd, it gets a bit easier not to sweat the things that we're not immediately and completely aligned around. So that's the complexity of this month in a way, because Saturn's certainly saying to you, know what you're not going to do, but Venus and Mercury and the Sun are in a way saying be open to collaboration. It just has to feel right. That brings us to the solar eclipse of the 21st. It is in a direct opposition with Saturn. If you are in a relationship which isn't working for you, however much you've tried, professional, personal, family, friendship, Mars, the planet of passion, moving into your sister water sign on the 22nd, could push you to try to liberate yourself from something that's really been oppressing you. But it is in a square with its modern ruler of Pluto. And if you do make that dramatic move, although it can be liberating at one level, it could be unsettling at another. But then the Sun plays replacement for Mars. So we have the Sun and also Mercury in your 8th house of deep transformation. And Sun also is the autumnal equinox, bringing in cardinal quadrant 3, the backdrop for the next 13 weeks, which for you particularly could be very transformational, especially with that Pluto Mars link in the latter part of September. So I feel that this month is an interesting snapshot really of what your life may have been like. There may have been times when you've been hugely supportive of people, your work, colleagues, the clients or customers that you've worked for. But there may have been other times when you've been really cheesed off that all that effort and devotion and sacrifice has not really been appreciated. And it's almost like it's all being crystallized in this month and will be with these two eclipses over the next 6. And I think there's a point to that, particularly with Pluto in 12, Saturn in your sign. Your sign is the sign of culmination. So when Saturn leaves on the 14th of February and goes into Aries again, it begins a new cycle of about 28 3/4 years. Saturn in total about 29.5 years, but we've had that first blush from the end of the 25th of May through to the start of this month. So if you think back, if you're older, to around about 29.5 years ago, you may get a bit of an insight of what was going on at that time. So there are opportunities this month for very profound connections, as long as I feel your personal agency is very clearly defined. And therefore that means that all relationships are about give and get, aren't they? They're not only on our own terms. But if a relationship, if you've tried and tried and tried and you really still don't feel respected, I think that Saturn can really help you to be braver about what you need to do. But perhaps really the standout player is Mars, because when Mars moves into that ninth house in that turbulent right angle to Pluto, it could push you to escape some kind of entrapment or enclosure which just isn't working for you, whether it's a job, whether it's an interest, a lifestyle choice, because just balancing what you need as an individual is at the core of this month. But there is some need for collaboration, but it needs to be collaboration that really works for you and the other person in a balanced way. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, please check out my testimonials below. Please also check out my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your free natal chart with a stunning free interpretation. Enjoy my wonderful 3 free card tarot, or sign up for your free daily horoscope fired to your device each day.